Welcome to Bowl Game Radio.
They reverse it to Shipley. Now he's going to throw the ball to Ash at the 5, to the goal line. Touchdown, Texas. A little razzle-dazzle.
With Bruce Binkowski and Mark Neville.
Moves it downfield, got a receiver there. Caught at the 15, 10, 5. He scores.
Bowl Game Radio on San Diego's sports leader, the mighty 1090.
Everybody. Am I on? I'm on now. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bowl Game Radio. I am Bruce Binkowski. Another week talking about college football, but specifically the San Diego Bowl Game Association, the San Diego County Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl, and the National University Holiday Bowl.
And I'm Mark Neville, and with Bowl Game Radio, we're trying to take you behind the scenes of San Diego's bowl games. And I think we have a pretty good show tonight. We'll be joined in this first segment with Coach Ted Tollner. We'll do a little team selection update for both games. Later on in the show, we'll be joined by ESPN.com's Kevin Gemmell, and we'll be talking a little Pac-12 football.
And we'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to pick up the phone, give us a call anytime this hour and talk about whatever we're talking about. You can call us at 858-457-1090. That's 858-457-1090. And
before we bring in our first guest, Coach Ted Tollner, we'd like to remind you to like us on each of our Facebook pages and follow us on Twitter at Poinsettia Bowl and at Holiday Bowl Game. So with that, let's jump right into our team selection update. And we're joined now by Coach Ted Tollner. Coach, welcome to the program. You're on with Bruce and Mark.
Hey, Bruce and Mark. What do you mean, Mark? It's going to be a pretty good show. It's going to be a great show tonight.
Yeah, Mark.
I stand corrected. This is going to be the best show ever.
That's right. We got to talk it up. All
right. Well, what's
going on, guys?
Well, let's talk college football. Let's talk the San Diego County Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl first. That game is Thursday, December the 26th at Qualcomm Stadium. Mountain West against a team from the Mid-American Conference. Now, we'll explain that in just a minute. But, Mark, let's kick it off.
Yeah, so, Bruce, well, first I think we should let our listeners know how we select the teams for this bowl game. So first, how do we get the teams for the Mountain West?
Out of the Mountain West, we get the second selection out of the Mountain West Conference. The Las Vegas Bowl picks first, and then we select. Against now, originally, it would be a bowl-eligible Army.
That didn't work out too well.
Did not work out too well. Army is now 3-7, which means they will not be bowl-eligible. So our backup is the Mid-American Conference. There's a big game on tonight, by the way. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But let's go back to the Mountain West Conference. Who could be representing the Mountain West in the San Diego County Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl? And I think it kind of narrows down. Well, it doesn't narrow down as much as we thought. We're assuming that Fresno State will go either to the BCS or the Las Vegas Bowl. That is our assumption, which means the pool of teams is Utah State, Boise State, Colorado State, San Diego State, and San Jose State.
Not a bad lineup.
Ted, do you agree, disagree, or what are your thoughts?
No, I totally agree. Fresno State, I believe, based on what they have left, anybody can be upset, but they have an excellent chance to be 11-0, and they had a chance to have more games than that. The one was canceled early because of a weather problem, and then they did not. They played Hawaii over there, but didn't pick up another game. So they only have 11 games, but it looks to me like they're going to be 11-0. And personally, I hope they get to the BCS. I think it's great for the Mountain West Conference.
Now,
and then after that, go ahead.
Coach, so staying with Fresno State here a moment. Now, they haven't necessarily run over a lot of teams. They beat Rutgers by 1 early on. They squeaked by Boise State in Fresno by 1. They beat Hawaii by 5. Cal Poly, they only beat 41-25. How do you think they stack up against the nation's elite?
Well, difficulty of schedule, you're right on there. It's not. It's going to come down to wins, and if you stack them up against the top 5, 6, 7, 8 schools in the country, I'm not sure they fit in there. They probably, and you hate to say it, but they probably fit in those schools in the major conferences that have gone 7, 8, 9 wins. But those elite schools that are going to have a chance to be 9, 10, 11, 12. Probably not if you take it out of the major conferences.
You're listening to Bowl Game Radio. We are talking with Coach Ted Tollner, and specifically right now we're talking about the San Diego County Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl. Who could represent the Mountain West Conference in that game played at Qualcomm Stadium on December the 26th? Now, we're talking about Fresno State right now, and assuming and again, in our business, we do so many assumptions along the way, assuming Boise State wins the Mountain Division of the Mountain West and plays Fresno State in the Mountain West Championship game, that game is the biggest game probably in Fresno State history, because if they win that game, they're probably undefeated in the BCS. Coach, if they lose that game, they go to the Las Vegas Bowl.
Yeah. Well, and that could easily happen. Now, that's assuming that Boise beats San Diego State, and that's not an automatic. I mean, San Diego State is playing much better football now. There's a lot of excitement going on, I think, in the Mountain West. And Fresno's got the easiest schedule left, not counting the playoff game if they get Boise or even San Diego State again. No, they can't get San Diego State, can they? No, they can't get they would have to get Boise or what, Utah State?
Boise or Utah State.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So I think Boise would have the best chance to beat them if that was going to happen. But there's a lot of football to be played, as we well know, and it's hard to say what's going to happen.
I was talking to a writer earlier today, and he said, who's going to be in both of your games? And I said, right now, we don't have a clue because there are so many games that are going to impact our final decision in early December. So there's so much football to be played.
And, Coach...
And that's good, though. I mean, because those teams they all look at the potential bowls, and those players and their alumni and their coaches are saying, hey, if we win this game, we got a chance to go here, we got a chance to go there, and there's a pecking order of games, of which we're fortunate that we have San Diego, and the way they get treated when they come here, they want to come here. So we're going to end up in good shape.
And so, Coach, you said there is, and you're right, there is a lot of excitement in the Mountain West right now. There's also a lot of excitement in the Mid-American Conference. In fact, there's a huge game on right now, number 17 in the BCS rankings, Northern Illinois University taking on Ball State. And that entire the conference is strong this year. They have really 6 teams that are above the others. NIU, Ball State, Bowling Green, Toledo, Buffalo, Ohio, all having really nice seasons. Right now, Northern Illinois and Ball State. In a similar question as I asked you about Fresno State, how do you think those two teams match up against the rest of the country?
Well, I think similar to Fresno State. I really do. Now, last year, Northern Illinois played Florida State, who was actually a legitimate contender for the national championship game, and they played them in the Orange Bowl, and they were beaten, but they played with them competitively, and so I think when they step up to that elite level, they're probably a little over their head, but they can play with a lot of good teams in the country. And so I think it's, when you talk about the few elite teams, there are not many teams that can play them. So it's quality football no matter how you look at it. And the Mid-American Conference, as you just said, there's 6 schools there that could have anywhere from 8 to 11 or 12 wins going into the bowl season. That's pretty impressive. And they had 7 teams last year that went to bowl. So it's a solid conference. I
wonder if Fresno State does happen to stumble. I think that's what it's going to take for Northern Illinois to get into the BCS. And, of course, Northern Illinois will have to win out. But I wonder if the BCS, when they're looking at these selections in these bowl games, are going to remember last year and how they really did not play up to what people were hoping they would play up to in the Orange Bowl against Florida State.
Well, I think it does factor in. The people on the committee, I mean, and rightly so. I mean, there's certain statistics that you have to have, where you're ranked and what your record is in this, but then they're going to look and what was the difficulty of schedule? That's a factor too, and how have they done in the past? Now, right or wrong is going to be factored in. Personally, I think to some degree it's correct, because some of those conferences are more difficult to win 10 and 11 games in than other conferences are, and that's just the way it is. It doesn't mean it's not good football, but when you get into that elite level, it's a pretty select group.
And right now they are having a great game at Northern Illinois. The score is 14-13, Ball State leading with 5 minutes left in the second quarter. And now...
Want me to go? Yeah. Okay, I wasn't sure you stopped right in midstream there, and I was just wondering, hey, where's
I had a little issue. I'm sorry.
Okay. well, where we are now is that out of the Mid-American Conference, you could have Ball State, you could have Northern Illinois. Ball State now 9-1, Northern Illinois 9-0. We're also looking at a Toledo that just had an unbelievable game against Buffalo last night, outscoring them 51-41. But Buffalo is still 7-3. Bowling Green has 6 wins. Ohio has 6 wins. So I think the San Diego County Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl, out of the Mid-American Conference and with the Mountain West, we're going to have a great matchup with 2 teams with outstanding records.
There's no question about that.
Yeah, and this game that's going on right now really has implications for the National University Holiday Bowl, because if Ball State is able to win this game, that pretty much takes Northern Illinois out of the BCS running, and that means there's going to have to be another team from another BCS conference likely that are going to have to fill that spot. It could be, as we're looking at now, the Big 12, and that carries us into the National University Holiday Bowl.
And while we have Coach Tollner with us, you're listening to Bowl Game Radio. That was Mark Neville. I'm Bruce Binkowski. On the line is Ted Tollner. Let's talk about our National University Holiday Bowl potential matchup. And briefly, let's talk about the Pac-12. We're going to have Kevin Gemmel from ESPN.com who'll be talking a lot more about the Pac-12 a little bit later. But in the Pac-12, we know we're going to have a USC, a UCLA, an Arizona State, an Oregon State, possibly a Stanford. So the teams that could represent the Pac-12 in the National University Holiday Bowl are outstanding. Now we go over to the Big 12, Coach. And I think if we're going to narrow it down, it's Texas Tech, Kansas State, and maybe Texas. Would you throw those three into our mix?
That's the three I would throw in. Now, Texas, sitting there with 7 wins, and they have a chance to get to 8 or 9. They really do, depending how they play. Now, their schedule, one game they should win by just records, and then the other 2 are going to be very difficult for them. They got Oklahoma State this weekend and Baylor at the end. So I think 8 and 4 is probably the realistic pick, but they might have more than that. And then Texas Tech has had a tough finish. They started strong, but they could lose out because they've got Baylor and they've got Texas, and then they could end up at 7 and 5. And K-State's moving on; they're getting stronger. So, Texas has gotten stronger as the year's going on, as the season's going on. Texas Tech, because of the difficulty of schedule, they've lost some games, and K-State's getting better. But I believe it'll come down to those 3 with an outside shot. West Virginia could win their last 2 and be bowl eligible.
Well, let's segue now over to coach talk, because every time we talk to you every week, we like to get away from the teams and find out a little bit about the inside, behind the scenes of coaches. And the interesting thing, and I know you're a good friend of Texas coach Mack Brown, but here's Mack Brown, who could finish the season 9-3 if they win out, and yet the fans are just so anti-Mack Brown, at least it appears to be in the media down there in Texas. How does that affect a coach, his team, or do you just shut that stuff out?
No, you can't shut it out. I don't believe, but I think they're rallying right now, and you're correct in saying that. Here they could be. They're going to win 8 and maybe 9 before it's over, which is really a very, very good year with the teams that they play. But what happens at certain schools, Texas being one of them, is that Mack has won a national championship there. He's been in so many bowl games. He's been in our Holiday Bowl 5 times, I believe.
Yep.
But what happens at those kind of schools is that the standard gets raised, and the plus side of that is it's a school that has the capabilities of winning a national championship because they have all the things you need to be capable, and they've done it. But when you don't do it, that's the other side of the coin, is that the coach takes the abuse. Why aren't we there? We've been there before. Why aren't we there? Is he getting too old? Is he not up with the younger kids? Now, all those things that are really, in my opinion, incorrect. I mean, he's a Hall of Fame college coach. He will be inducted into that, I would believe, when it's time, when he meets those criteria. But that's what happens when you're at a school that can win a national championship and you don't win it. 8 or 9 is not enough. That's the downside, but that's the way it is.
I think there's a handful of Division I college football teams where no matter who the coach is, they are second-guessed constantly. And I think that's Texas, that's Ohio State, that's, USC, when you were at USC. Some coaches are in a position where they don't have to deal with that constant criticism and evaluation, but in those schools, you do. But like you said, you just got to shut it off.
You do. And, as a coach, if that bothers you, I mean, if you can't meet that standard of excellence, that's a national championship level, and I never got there as the head coach at SC. We had some good seasons, but we never got a national championship. And so you get let go. They make a change. That's okay. The opportunity to coach at those schools, it can't put fear in you. It's got to put excitement in you, and sometimes you're not going to make it, and then you're going to pay the price.
I think if you're a Texas Longhorn fan, you better be careful what you wish for, because I think they got a really good thing there in Mack Brown.
Oh, they do. I mean, he's quality in every fashion. And not only is his record, but he's quality in character and his focus on education and the character of his players. And I mean, the program speaks for itself. Now, if they make a change, I think it'll be a mistake, but who knows? I mean, Mack may decide he's had enough, too.
Another coach that's really doing great things now in the Big 12 and turning their team around is Kansas State. old school coach, Bill Snyder. How is he so successful year in and year out?
Well, that's been one of the more marvelous jobs in coaching, I think. I mean, there's been two guys that have turned programs around that were just awful. And one is Bill Snyder at K-State, and the other is Lavelle Edwards at BYU prior to there. But we're talking about Bill Snyder now. And I know earlier.
And Bill Snyder's really done it twice at Kansas State.
He got out and then came back. But Bill, earlier in the year when they were struggling, I kept thinking to myself, no, he is too good a coach. He's too solid. He will not lose this team. And now they're starting to play good football. And I would love nothing more than to see him finish 7-5. And he's getting near the end of his career too. And who knows when it is? But I know one thing: that you're not going to outcoach Bill Snyder.
Bill Snyder is 70. I believe he's 73 years old.
Yeah.
And
he's
he is
my age.
I didn't know you were that old.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, we're the same age.
Careful, this is our guest here, Bruce.
But at 73, obviously the coaching styles are so different. If you look at the coaches, so many of these coaches now are in their mid-30s and early 40s. How do you think that Snyder does this? Does he surround himself with younger staff, or is it just the way he is?
No, I think he's established his credibility over the years, and he's solid the way he treats players. Okay, he is in his 70s, and sometimes you can say, well, the game's going to leave him behind, but he is a worker. He is smart. He treats people good. All of his assistants stay with him. It's a consistent program, and it's established that kind of a credibility, and so that's why he can win. He's just good in all facets of recruiting, getting character athletes, and then knowing what he's doing in football and working like a dog to make sure they win.
Interesting thing about Bill Snyder, I was at some Big 12 meetings 3 or 4 years ago, right when he came back after he retired. Then he came back and was back in the coaching ranks. And I was at this big table, and he happened to be sitting next to me. And I said, "Hey, Coach, great that you're back. I guess you don't work as hard as you used to. Now that you're back." He goes, "Yeah, I do." And I said, but I bet you don't take the losses as hard as you used to. He goes, "Yeah, I do." So it didn't change. He just didn't change.
No, and it doesn't. And I think the one thing that most coaches will tell you, I know it was this way for me, is that losses always stick with you more than there's some great wins. If you coach a number of years, like us guys that are 70 and plus years old, you're going to have some big wins. But it's the tough loss that somehow, when people start talking, that's the one that sticks with you. And it's too bad, but it does, because that's just the way it is. You hate to lose.
Here we've talked about Mac Brown. We've talked about Bill Snyder. Well, in the Big 12, there was some other coaching news that the Associated Press broke earlier.
Yeah, Ted may not even know this.
Yeah, another great guy, Art Briles, the head coach of the Baylor Bears, just signed a 10-year contract extension.
Well, that I think that is super. Yeah, I got to know Art last year. We had spent a week together on a Nike trip, and he really does a great job. And I wondered how that was going to unfold, because he is going to be hot and everybody's going to be after him. And so Baylor was smart enough to say, hey, we got ourselves something special here. And in that program, I've had a couple people asking, what's happened down there at Baylor? Well, they're just doing a great job, and there's a commitment. They're building new facilities, and they're winning football games.
And scoring a lot of points.
Oh, man, it's an exciting operation right now. And I did not know that, but I'm happy to hear that.
So, Ted, in your heyday, a president of the university called you up and said, Ted, I'd like to sign you to a 10-year contract. How long would it have taken you to say yes?
Oh, you jump right on that. I mean, one thing about coaching, there is no security. There's no security. So if you have a chance to get something like that, especially if you love where you are, and he's a Texas guy, he came up through the high school system,
yep.
and so it all fits. I mean, everything fits for him there.
Well, Coach Ted Tollner, again, we're up against a break. We got to pay a few bills, and
right.
We appreciate you once again joining us here on Bowl Game Radio.
Good talking to you guys. Take care.
All right,
Coach. Strong here, guys.
All right, we'll do our best, but it's such a great start. I don't know if we can finish that fast, but we'll see what happens.
All right, good night.
All right.
So we're going to take a break here. Reminder that we will take your calls. Give us a call at 858-457-1090. That's 858-457. You got that? 457-1090. All right, we'll be back right after this. You're listening to Bowl Game Radio on the San Diego Bowl Game Media Network and the mighty 1090.